So, Mark, you touched on it earlier. What's a question you wish we had asked that we haven't?
Oh my God. It's much easier to do shows like this when you know the questions ahead of time, but you wouldn't offer them up, so you had to make me think. What would I have wanted you to ask? One of the things, and I actually did a LinkedIn post about this today. I might have wanted you to ask me a little bit about, businesses that are somewhat mature and are, being asked, their marketing teams are being asked to, budget now for next year, and they're looking for, management comes in and says, geez, we're looking for 5%, mid-single digit, kind of growth year over year, and we expect that, let's say it's 5%, we also expect a 5% or better increase in EBITDA. So make sure that your budget factors that all in. It might have been interesting for you to ask me, now what do I do?
All right, and now what do you do?
Yeah, so it's a real challenge, because there's so many levers that you have to pull, and to be fair, part of my post around that was to demonstrate to folks that there are things you can do order post order monetization, but let's leave that out for a second. One of the things that you can do is redouble your efforts on retention. It kind of goes back to what I was saying before, about the fact that you need to be able to acquire new customers, in your business, and that retention rate, really matters. So retailers are getting a lot of traffic, but they're not doing as much with that traffic as they can. So if you got to get to that 5%, growth, and maybe last year you were flat or maybe even declined, you need to find some ways to bring new customers into the top of the funnel, which requires marketing spend, which is going against what your management has asked you for. But, are there things that you could be doing on your site, much like we've just been talking about for the last 45 minutes about friction? How do I reduce the friction so that I can get more orders and more dollars from the traffic that I am getting? And then, also it's about, as I mentioned, retention. So many of these businesses are dealing with retention rates of 20, 25, 30%. And in order to even be flat, right, if that's your retention rate, call it 30%, that means that next year I need to bring in 70% of my customers brand new. That's a real challenge for these businesses. And you asked before about things that businesses, are doing. Maybe they're not as productive as possible. Just checking the box and having a loyalty program where you're giving away rewards for spend, I don't think that buys loyalty. Yeah, if you've got, certain, brands, my wife she loves Bloomingdale's, and, she will go out of her way if she's going to buy something, whether a gift or something that she wants, she will go out of her way to buy it at Bloomingdale's versus another store because of their loyalty program. But you don't hear a lot about people saying, I'm going to go buy my next pair of jeans from XYZ because their loyalty program is better than, another brand. I just don't think that matters. If you're going to have a loyalty program, it's got to bring more than just discounts. It's got to bring experiences. It's got to bring things that I couldn't ordinarily get just as any other customer. And when I was at Steve Madden, we launched a loyalty program, and the idea behind it was to give experiences to that generation of customer, whether it be the opportunity to meet Steve himself or the opportunity to go to music venues with music artists that the company was supporting, things that you couldn't buy. I think that breeds loyalty.
Yeah, and that actually ties into one of our conversations we had previously, a different episode with Mike Shady, and we were talking about usability with this. And it's all about giving that good experience over and over and over and over again. And that's what builds the loyalty, not necessarily the loyalty program. Now, that might work with some people, but not everybody. It's all about that consistent good experience. His analogy was climbing up a ladder. And then when you have that bad experience, you fall off the ladder. How high up do you go with every experience? And then all of a sudden, you're falling from the top and it hurts a lot, right? Because you've built this like brand trust, but then you have a bad experience, and it's, what does it take to have that bad experience? How do you stay on that ladder? How do you continue to climb up? I really like that analogy. So that would be a fun episode to tune into.
Well,